explain current pattern of growth in emerging markets, right? Now, these theories includes theory of absolute advantage theory. When you are entering into, when you are selling your product in the foreign market, and this explain that which products and the services the particular country need to focus on and what other country need to focus on because of based on the absolute advantage the companies can claim. The theory of absolute advantage suggests that each nation should specialize in producing product. It has a natural or acquired advantage in productions. Now, absolute advantage, the theory suggests that each nation should specialize a product or the products, and that the specializations or the absolute advantage has been or is coming from, one is the natural advantage, then another one is the acquired advantage. Now, natural advantage in the sense that maybe you have the natural resources, right? Maybe the land, maybe the mineral, or a kind of natural advantage. Or otherwise the acquired advantage. We have acquired that advantage, maybe the cheap labor or something like that, acquired advantage. Then anyway, this says there are some absolute advantage with compared to others, so that the competitive advantage of the company can be maintained, the country level can be maintained by specializing a particular product or the goods or the particular good or the goods. That is the one theory that change the competitive advantage or the shift the competitive advantage over the countries. The other one we call the theory of comparative advantage theory. Then we compare, we have learned these things. We have compare and see this the advantage hold that relative advantage is all that is necessary to get the gain the trades. What is the advantage the companies has, and comparative. We can compare the two more countries and see which one has the advantage over others with the comparison and with compared. And then another approach we can use the factor endowment theory. Now, factor endowment theory is basically based on the production factors. Whether the country had the production factors, if they have more production factors than others, then the company can think of we have an advantage over others in producing such product. The factor endowment theory allows us to look at the relative ability of different factors of productions, land, labor, capital, and those kind of things. If you are good in lands, then we have that factor. Then we can get our advantage, but utilizing. And maybe we have the capital. We can go for the capital incentives, intensive industries, so that we can have a competitive advantage over others. Maybe we have the bund or the good labor, skill labor, or cheap labor, skill labor. Using that one, then we can produce, or because of that we can get the competitive advantage. That is based on the factor endowments. Now, when we think of companies are going for international strategies, and then what are the opportunities of international strategies? What are the outcome? What are the opportunities and what are the outcome of the international strategies if companies are going to adopt that strategy to expand their businesses? Then these are obvious: identifying international opportunities and exploring resources and capabilities. Then core competencies, or use core competencies, entry modes, and then a strategic competitive advantage. Now, because of these international strategies, the market share of the companies, market share can be expand because of the international strategies. That is for example, say if you are selling our product and services only within the local market, our market share within the local market. But if you are going to expand, if you are expanding our businesses to the international level, number of countries, then we can capture the market from them as well, so that the market share will be increases. That is the increased market share. Then return on investment will be higher. Then because of the increased market share and because of the customer base, then the companies can earn better, which facilitates or which influence or which has, because of that, they can earn higher return of investment, or they can earn the best return, and the return on investment will be increases. And economies of scales and the learning, because of the international expansion, they can produce more. Then because of the productions, the more productions, because of the more productions, then the cost ops, the productions will be lower, and as a result of that, then we can reduce we can reduce the cost of productions, and the economies of scale can be achieved. And also learning, the technical, also learning. And location advantage, also location advantage, then we can achieve the location advantage. We can commence our businesses in different countries which have a kind of advantage because of the locations. And then this is because of the foreign direct investments and the foreign direct investments, and they can establish the company so that the company can advantage because of the particular location have kind of advantages that can be achieved. Therefore, by entering to the international markets, the companies can enhance their market share or the market size, and they can get better return on investments. They can achieve the economies of scales, and the learning can be enhanced. Then locational advantage can be achieved. Then there are different international strategies the companies can follow in entering into the international markets. There are 4 strategies we can discuss later. The international business level strategies, multi-domestic strategies, the transnational strategies, and the global strategies. These are the 4 international strategies the companies can follow: international business strategy, business level strategy, multi-domestic strategy, global strategy, and the transnational strategy. And whatever the strategy use, when entering to the international markets, they can use the different modes. The exporting, they can export. By exporting, they can enter into the international markets. By licensing agreements, they can enter into the international markets. And franchising agreements, they can enter into the international markets. And then strategic alliances can be formed through which they can enter into the international market through their strategic alliances. And then the acquisition can be done. They can acquire the acquisition can be done. Then the other one is that establishment of a new subsidiary. They can establish a subsidiary or they can go for the foreign investments. Now, these are the different modes: exporting, licensing, strategic alliances, acquisitions, and establishment of new subsidiaries. And as a result of that the better performance company can earn better and the performance will be higher. Then also because of entering into the international markets, the company can be adopt some innovative practices in producing, delivering, and different aspects of the business. Then anyway, whatever the entry modes used, there are some the risk, that is we call the management problem and risk are there, that we should not ignore that part, that management risk and the problems are there in the problem. Then when identifying the international opportunities, international strategy, strategy through which the firm sell goods and services outside the domestic market, that is the strategy we call international strategy. What is the strategy? The company is going to use, company is using to sell their products or the services outside the domestic markets. Then as we see, the reason for having international strategy, why we are going for the international strategy, international markets yield potential new opportunities. When you go for the international markets, then we can expand the earning or our opportunities. We have the potentials. The new opportunities yield potential new opportunities through international markets. Then the other reason is that to have international strategies, companies are going for the international strategies. That is, new market expansion extend beyond life cycles. The product life cycle is there. If you are going for the international markets, we can expand our product life cycles. And needed resources can be secured. We can get the needed resources. The needed resource can be achieved. And the greater potential product demand. Greater potential for product demand. These are the international opportunities. So a reason for having international strategy. International market yield potential new opportunities, new market expansion, need resources secured, and the greater potentials. And now this is the classical rationale for international diversifications. Diversification of diversification extending product life cycle. And this is basically how the product life cycles has been expanded. Then initially, the domestic firms, introduce innovations, the manufacture products for the domestic markets. From introduce innovation in domestic markets. And then say if domestic market, this is actually how the internationalization is happening, and produce the product for the domestic markets. And after certain times, those products is succeeding in the local market, and the company will export the product to the international markets. Product demand develop and firm exports. Initially, we produce the product for the local markets and say that there's a good the demand for the market, the products, and then those products will be exported to the international markets. And then if that product is success, other companies start the similar productions. Then as a result of that, foreign competition begins. As a result, the foreign competition starts. Then because of the foreign competitions, the demand will be created in the foreign markets. And then the other firms, foreign firms, began production abroad. They considering the markets and considering other the resources available in the market, the foreign companies start beginning the productions. And then the production is standardized because multiple firms produce the product. Therefore, product will be standardized and relocated to low-cost countries. That is how the shifting the products from one country to another country. Maybe sometime some countries produce a product, after a certain time they stop that productions because of that the producing the product is not the profitable or the feasible in the country. Then the manufacturer, they are going to some other countries which have a feasibility of producing the product, and that move from the countries to country. Now, for example, if you get the PC manufacturing, computer manufacturing, personal computers, originally IBM US produced it. Now the computers are producing in the China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, and those countries the computers are producing. That has been changed from the US to other Asian countries. Likewise, every product, if you get the ready-made apparel industry, garment industry, same, starting from the Japan, and it came to other countries and Korea and all these things, and then to Sri Lanka and the Philippines and those countries. And now that also move into Vietnam and Bangladesh, so the countries. This is the moving pattern of the industry, and the industry has a moving pattern. And again, in explaining the industry or the moving pattern, one of the approach used is we call the flying geese model. And the flying geese model, the Asian economies are following similar development path, but at the different stages along with this path, following a goose, Japan. It's a bird. And over the years, over the time, each country groups will gain and then subsequently use a specific competitive advantage in a particular industry. In industry, sometime we have advantage today, this year, maybe with the next 5 years, or we don't have advantage, some country captured it. That is the advantage that is moving from one country to another country or one region to another region. And that is we call the shifting pattern of the industry. Right? Then in each country, the transition is marked by shift of employments from one sector to another sector. The employment shift from one sector to another sector within the broad move of the, say, agriculture to manufacturing, then to services. Move from agriculture to the manufacturing and to the services. That is the pattern. Overall, rise in skills and improved technology capabilities, because skills of the countries, people in the countries will be enhanced. and the technology will be enhanced. And then capital investment will be increased and the wages inflations. Now, due to some of these reasons, the industry will shift from one country to another country, one region to another region, driven by change in process. Right? Then time scale of which individual country develop, economic conditions, resources, the capability to specialize in a particular industry sector appears to be shortened. And because of the economic conditions, resources, and capabilities to specialize in a specialize to a particular industry sector appears to be shortening. That is will be shortened. Comparative advantage between nations is also therefore shifting faster than the future. That is the change in pattern. And then this is the flying geese model. Time it took to evolve into leading firms in their industries. Toyota and Sony to evolve to the leading firms, they took the 30 to 35 years. And Samsung, the South Korea and the Asia, Taiwan, it took the 20 to 25 years. And Wipro and Infosys and the TCS, their 15 to 20 years has been taken to evolve the company as leading firms. Now, this is the shifting pattern of the industry in Japan. The index of comparative advantage for the particular country over the times and change in national level specialization. Initially, they had the advantage of producing the textile, then the clothing, shift to the clothing, and to the steel, the autos, and the electronics. That is the movement pattern. Then say this is the countries, and now for example, if you get the shift in location of industries, the Japan, then NIC, newly industrial countries, ASEAN, then the China, Vietnam, India, and that the change in pattern. Now this is the shift in comparative advantage. Say change in the geographical locations, change in industry specializations. Right? Now the textiles, the Japan, then NIC, and how it has been changed over the change in geographical locations, textile. Then the clothing, this has been changed to the Japan, NIC, ASEAN, and the China. Then the steel, the Japan, then to the NIC and to the ASEAN. And the autos, then Japan and the NIC, now China, and the electronic. That's the change in pattern. Now the product, this what we have to get from this one is the industry is changing. Now this is, as I mentioned, the time taken companies to move forward to the leading level. The comparative and competitive advantage, the technology capabilities, value-added manufacturing, export opportunities. This is Japan, the clothing, steel, autos, electronics. Then South Korea, Taiwan, Singapore, UK, clothing, steels, autos, and the electronics. India is the companies, and then China, clothing, autos, electronic softwares. Then say this is how the time span that the thing has been exchanged. But the international level, This flying geese theories has been used to explain the shifting pattern of the industry, but there are some criticisms about the model. These are the criticisms. Many industries note that sequential transfer of industry's plan does not follow the same pattern in each country. This they have the sequential pattern. That pattern not follow in each country. That's the one of the criticisms. That it tend to be more of parallel process whereby emerging economies aim to develop capabilities and grow export across several industries at the same time. And an example of an Indian IT and services industry also demonstrate that leapfrogging is possible. Then they can bypass. Here, a less developed country has evolved comparative advantage in advanced services without going through the stages depicted by the model. However, some insight can be gained from this one. We can, although there is criticism, we can gain some insight by with this applying this model, and the change in global location at different industries and different activities are they are and relating to competitive advantage between countries. Right, that is the one the criticisms as well as the advantage of this model. And this model basically discuss the industry is not static. It is moving from one country to country, and it is moving from industry to industry. Some industry is more provide advantage to a country, and after some time that will change. Now got the automobile industry. Now the advantage is earlier Japan. Now it is moving to the China. That is something like, right? This is the flying geese model. And then we can see the strategies, the international strategies, the benefits. Right. Before that, shall we have a break?
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now 37, say 55, say now 30, 40, the 15 minutes.
Okay, sir.
55.
Okay, all right.
Sir. Okay. You hear the sound?
Environment in which companies potentially could compete.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
It's frozen, I think.
Allow a company to attain a
Can hear the sound, sir, but can't see the video.
Our focus has been on key aspects of a larger macro environment.
Strategy benefits, as we discussed earlier. This is domestic market may lack the market size, so that if we go for the international markets, then the companies can increase or enhance their the market size. And the return on investments, as mentioned, large investment project may require global markets to justify the capital outlays, and weak patent protections in some countries imply that firms should expand overseas rapidly in order to preempt the imitators. Then the economies of scales, as we discussed, expand in size or scope of market help to achieve economic scales in manufacturing as well as marketing, R&D, and the distributions. Can spread cost over large scale sales base and can increase profit per unit. Then international strategy benefit, locational advantage, as discussed. Then if the companies are going to international market, they have the locational advantage. And some locations, they have the raw materials because of can you get the raw material? The raw material is available. And transportations, some shipping transportations and the inland transportation, air transportation there that can be available for the companies. And they are locating their businesses. And then lower cost for labor, low labor cost, and the key customers and the energy. Now these are the locational advantage: raw material, transportations, low cost, the key customers, and some country the energy is available. Then now this is in discussing the international the strategies. The one of the theory model we can use is that other than what we have discussed is the Porter's the diamond model, Porter's diamond model, and the Porter's diamond model discuss or the highlights determinants of national advantage, the advantage of the country, and that there are 4 dimensions: the determinants, factor of productions, demand conditions, related and supported industries, firm strategy, structure, and the rivalry. And then based on that, we can see the advantage the particular country has. Then when it comes to the production factors of productions, the first dimension, so one of the dimensions, the input necessary competing in India, whether the factors of productions or the inputs are available in the country, factors of production, the input necessary to compete in any industry, the labor, capital, land, infrastructure, natural resources, whether these resources are available, and labor resources, and the capital resources, the land, infrastructure, and the natural resources. And based on that, we can see they can start the businesses and see that whether these resources generate competitive advantage for the organizations. And these resources we can categorize as basic factors and the advanced factors. And the basic factors are the naturally given factors like natural resources, the labor resources, natural basic factors. Advanced factors, the factors that have been developed over the years, digital communication systems, educational workforce. Now those are we call the advanced factors. And that anyway, then we have to see that whether the factors of productions are there. If the country has a kind of factors of productions and the business is performing, conducting using that the factors, there is an advantage over others. And then we can see the demand conditions, whether local demand is there initially, characterized by nature and size of buyer needs at the home market for the industry and the good. Because if you have the demand for the home country, for the product and services, the company has the offering, then it is because of that they can have an opportunity for expand their market locally. Later on, they can subsequently they can go for the international markets. Size of the market segment can lead to scale efficient facilities, then we all know. And the efficiency can lead to dominations of the industry and other countries. If you have the efficiency, we can dominate. And specialized demand may create opportunity beyond national boundaries. Then you have the opportunity that create opportunities and can go beyond the national boundaries. Then related and supported industries, whether in a country, related and supported industries are available. If related and supported industries are available, that give sort of the incentives or inducements for the development of the national industry through which the companies can get the national advantage. Now say support facilities the services, suppliers, and so on. And support in designing, where the facilities are there, designing facilities, support in distributions, and related industries as suppliers and the buyers. And also we have that mean where the service industries there, and like shipping and airlines and transportations and the banking and insurance and the distributions, the supporting and services are there that helps for the enhancement of the businesses. And then firm strategy, structure, and the rivalry. What is the firm level? What are their strategies? What is the firm structure? And what is the rivalry, competition among the firms? The pattern of strategy, structure, and rivalry among firms, that the common technical trainings, and the method, product, and service is improved, and the cooperating and the cooperation system that matters for the development. Now, this is the diamond model, where the factors of production is available. What is the factors of productions, and where the local demands conditions there, if that is easy for them to get the advantage, and related where the related and supported industries are available, where the firm the strategy, structure, and what is the firm strategy, firm rivalry, and the firm structures that matters for the development. And then the competing globally in companies when they are doing global competitions. Where and how global competition, where they compete, how they compete, where and how, where and how. Then the primary drivers behind firm expanding beyond their domestic markets are the strengthening their competitive position by gaining access to larger and low-cost inputs and developing new the competitions. The primary drivers behind the firm expanding beyond the domestic markets, drivers behind the markets, and strengthening competitive gaining positions by larger markets, so that cost will be minimal or the low cost, and developing new capabilities. Then in discussing this one, the where to globals, where, how, and where to aid MNCs in deciding where in the world to compete is the one, Dr. Pankaj introduced CAGE, distance framework, which is based on relative distance between home country and the potential or the foreign country. Now, these are the 4 dimensions in the CAGE model: culture, and the administrative and political, geographicals, and the economicals. Then whether 2 countries or countries that we are going to do the trade is culturally close, or whether administrative and the political systems are similar or more or less similar, and what is the geography, and in terms of the distance, geographical distance, and economic conditions, whether we are in the same levels, and that's what we have discussed earlier, the grouping of the countries and the economics. Now the distance, these are the between 2 countries increase: cultural distance, administrative and the political distance, geographical distance, and the economic distance. Now say like the cultural distance, if the country, assume that we are going to do our business with a country, and if both countries and our countries are that both countries, the different strategies, languages, ethnicities, religions, social norm, and dispersions. Now, if they are different totally, say we have the totally different languages, total ethnicities, total religions different, social norms totally different, and dispersion totally different, then doing business is something different difficult than the countries having the similar cultural values. And lack of connective ethical and social networks, right? What is the social and ethical networks? Whether our social and ethical activity is starting, that again, there may be some issues in doing the business. That is because of culturally, we both are heavy about the far long distance, and lack of trust and the mutual respects. And in culturally, the countries, the lack of trust, they have the mutual respect is less, and lack then doing the business is something different according to this cage model. And then the administrative and the political distance, absence of trading blocks. When you're doing the international businesses, we know that there are trading groups, association, trading blocks. Doing the business within the trading association is something easy, rather having no trade associations. Then if there's an absence of trade associations, and then the doing business is something difficult if the country has some trade associations, some others. Right? An absence of shared currency, the monetary association and the political associations. And if the currency, change in currency is difficult, and the political association is something difficult. An absence of colonial ties. If the colonial tie is there, that also doing the business is easy. And the political hostilities, then the weak legal and financial institution. In the country, the legal and the financial institution are weaker, so that doing business with other countries are difficult. Then the geographical distance. Now, geographical distance, lack of common border, the waterways access, the inadequate transports, and the communication links. Geographically, then the distance is high. That means no, like from the sea we cannot connect, from the air we cannot connect, from the land transportations both countries can connect. Then that is difficult, and the communication also not that much good with the countries. And the physical remoteness, countries are so the far away. For example, say Sri Lanka, they say Greenland, right? Likewise, far away countries, doing far away countries is something the difficult. That is rather doing the business with the sort of closer countries. Because if you are doing the business with the closer countries, the transportation cost is lower, so that it is easy the company to compete with others. That is for the end customer cost is lower. If the country is far away, the end customer is higher. That is because the transport cost and all kind of things. Then another one is different climatic and the time zone. And the climate is totally different, right? Then doing the business is something different. And the time zones are totally different. And then this is not easy of doing the business with the countries. I mean, similar times, identical time zones and the different time zones. And the economics factors. Then different consumer incomes, right? If the consumer's income is totally different within the country, and doing the business difficult, and different cost and the quality of natural, financial, and human resources. Different cost and the quality of the natural resources, and quality of finance resources, and quality of human resources are different, so that the doing business is something different. And different information for knowledge. Different information or knowledge is different in the countries, and so that doing business is something difficult. That's why this framework, cage model, distance. If they are closer, similar, then doing business is something easier than others. And also with regard to the cultures, with high linguistic content, related national and the religious identity, then food and all these things, then easy. and carry in country-specific quality associations. Then administrative, again, foreign government view the staples as building national regulators and the geographically with low to value ratio, and there is a fragile perishable goods, and the economic for which demand varies income, and likewise, then we can see. Right. Then selecting international the cooperations with others in doing the businesses, corporate level selecting an international the corporate level strategies. There are the different type of strategies. The type of corporate strategy selected will have an impact on selection and the implementation of business level strategies. The some strategies provide individual country unit with the flexibility to choose and their own strategies. Other strategies dictate business level strategies from the home office and coordinate resource sharing with other units. And now this is the corporate level strategies. The operation scope of the focus corporation, we can diversify the product to the different countries, the different diversifications. That is focused on the scope of the operation and the product diversifications and the geographical diversification. We can diversify the product or we can diversify the geography. And the same product in the different geographical locations or different product in the different locations. And required when the firm operate in multiple industries and multiple countries or the regions. Then basically the headquarter guides, unit guides the strategy, but business or country level managers can have substantial strategic inputs they can redo. Based on that, we can see 4 types of strategies. That is, we call the based on the pressure for the cost reductions. Pressure for cost reduction is high, pressure for cost reduction is low. And pressure for local responsiveness, high and low. If the pressure for local responsiveness is low and cost reduction is high, that strategy we call the global standardizations. And say if the pressure for local responsiveness is low, there's no pressure to respond to the local requirements, and say the pressure for cost reduction is not necessary, and that is we call the international strategies. Say the pressure for local responsiveness, that means the product and the service has been customized to the local requirements, and it is high, and the cost reduction also high. The cost need to be reduced, fit into the local requirement. That is strategy we call the transnational strategy. If say pressure for local responsiveness is high and the cost reduction is low, that is called the multi-domestic strategies. These are the 4 strategies: the transnational strategies, multi-domestic strategies, and the global standardizations, and the international strategy. Those are the 4 strategies. Then if you take one by one, these strategies, I guess that for the marketing, maybe you have learned there are 4 concepts: ethnocentric, polycentric, geocentric, and the regiocentric approach. Ethnocentric approach, polycentric approach, the regiocentric approach, and the geocentric approach. Similarly, these the strategies are linked to those approach: the international strategies, the multi-domestic strategies, transnational strategies, and the likewise. Then we can those are linked. Now, when you see the international strategies, it is the local pressure is low. Then no need to adjust the product or the services to the local requirements, and also no need to reduce the cost, fit into the local requirements. Then the internationally same the features or the product attributes can be maintained, as well as then we can maintain the common cost. Cost will not be changed to country. Common cost approach can be used. Then this is the international strategy. International strategy that involve leveraging home-based core competencies by selling the same product or the same services in both domestic and the foreign market. We are not changing the product because there's no pressure from the local market to change the product according to the requirements, or no need to change the cost as well. And then the domestic product can be sold internationally the same level. This is something like ethnocentric. And then the international strategy tend to rely on exports or other licensing of product or franchising of services, reap economies of scale by the accessing international larger markets. In the strength of international strategy, it's limited local responsiveness. We are not chained to the local thing, and also weakness in many industries. That is, sometimes the product that you sold here cannot be sold in some other countries. The customization need to be done in the international strategy. That will not happen. Then multi-domestic strategy. The strategy pursued means to attempt the maximum local responsiveness. The responsiveness, local responsiveness, maximum local, with the intent that local consumers will pursue them to domestic companies. And that means then we customize the product to fit into the different country requirements. Strategy pursued by MNC to attempt to maximize local responsiveness with the intent that local consumers will receive them to be domestic companies, right? The different companies, different countries, the different the products and the service will be offered. Product and service are tailored to local markets, and business units in one country are independent from others. Then assume the market differ by country to country. We assume the markets are differ by country to country. Focus on the competitive in each market. Prominent strategy among the European firms due to broader variety of cultures than the market in Europe. And these are the two strategies. And the next one is global strategy. Now, global strategies, product are standardized across national markets. The business level strategies are centralized at home level, and strategic business units are assumed to be interdependent and emphasis economies of scale and often lack responsive markets and require resources sharing coordinated board across. And then another one, the transnational strategies. This is strategy that attempt to combine the benefits of the localizations with those of global strategies. Now, difficult to act because of simultaneous requirements, strong central controls, and the coordination to achieve the efficiency. And decentralization is to achieve the local market responsiveness. And this is think global, but act local principle. The firm must pursue organization learning to achieve competitive advantage. See that and there is the video on this one, whether that can be played well.
Wait. How old is the new hire?
I don't know, but he literally uses Excel. You must be the new analyst.
Yes, first day.
Sixth floor. The team is quite dynamic.
So we cannot see the video.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Business School 101. I am Dr. Yang.
Sir, we can't
Firms
see the video.
in the local marketplace typically face two types of competitive
Right, yeah, now you
pressures.
can hear the sound.
Yes, sir.
Pressures
Yes,
for
sir.
cost reductions and pressures to be locally
Yes.
demands on a firm. Responding to pressures for cost reductions requires that a firm try to minimize its
Yes, I
unit
can
cost. But responding to pressures to be locally responsive requires that a firm differentiate its product offering and marketing strategy from country to country in an effort to accommodate the diverse demands. Because differentiation across countries can involve significant duplication and a lack of product standardization, it may raise costs. So how do differences in the strength of those pressures affect a firm's choice of strategy? In this video, I will introduce 4 major international strategies to you. Let's begin by discussing the pressures for the cost reduction. In competitive global markets, international businesses often face pressures for cost reductions. Responding to pressures for cost reduction requires a firm to try to lower the cost of value creation. For example, a manufacturer might mass produce a standardized product at an optimal location in the world, wherever that might be, to realize economies of scale, learning effects, and location economy. Alternatively, a firm might outsource certain functions to low-cost foreign suppliers in an attempt to reduce costs. Thus, many American companies have outsourced their call centers to India and the Philippines, where qualified technicians who speak English can be hired for a much lower wage than in the United States. Pressures for cost reduction can be particularly intense in industries producing commodity-type products, where meaningful differentiation of non-price factors is difficult, and
Not
price is
working.
the main competitive weapon.
No, we just can see the strategy of international
For
business.
products that serve universal needs.
Right.
So we can
Now-
hear, but
Universal
the
needs
video is stuck.
exist where the tastes and preferences of consumers in different nations are similar, if not identical. This is the case for conventional commodity products such as bulk chemicals, petroleum,
So I think it gets stuck when you go to full screen.
Full screen.
Yes,
Wait.
sir. I think before you went to full screen, it was there.
steel, sugar, and the like. It also tends to be the case for many industrial and consumer products, for example, smartphones, semiconductor chips, and personal computers. Pressures for cost reduction are also intense in industries where major competitors are based in low-cost locations, where there is persistent excess capacity, and where consumers are powerful and face low switching costs. The liberalization of the world trade and investment environment in recent decades by facilitating greater international competition has generally increased cost pressures.
In contrast, pressures for local responsiveness mainly arise from four major perspectives. First, differences in customer tastes and preferences. Strong pressures for local responsiveness emerge when customer tastes and preferences differ significantly between countries, as they often do for deeply embedded historic and cultural reasons. In such cases, a multinational's products and marketing message have to be customized to appeal to the tastes and preferences of local customers. For example, the automobile industry in the 1980s and early 1990s moved towards the creation of world cars. The idea was that global companies such as General Motors, Ford, and Toyota would be able to sell the same basic vehicle the world over, sourcing it from centralized production locations. If successful, the strategy would have enabled automobile companies to reap significant gains from global scale economies. However, this strategy frequently ran aground upon the hard rocks of consumer reality. Consumers in different automobile markets seem to have different tastes and preferences and demand different types of vehicles. For example, American consumers show a strong demand for large SUVs and pickup trucks. But in many European and Asian countries, consumers prefer fuel-efficient, smaller-sized vehicles.
If you want to shape your glutes without heavy weights and tone your mommy pouch without cardio, do these 5 exercises all the way till August. We start the military calisthenics this Monday. Are you in?
Second, differences in infrastructure and traditional practices. Pressures for local responsiveness arise from differences in infrastructure or traditional practices among countries, creating a need to customize products accordingly. Fulfilling this need may require the delegation of manufacturing and production functions to foreign subsidiaries. For example, in Japan, consumer electrical systems are based on 100 volts, whereas in China, 220-volt systems are standard. Thus, domestic electrical appliances have to be customized for this difference in infrastructure. In addition, some traditional practices also often vary across nations. For example, in India and Japan, people drive on the left-hand side of the road, creating a demand for right-hand drive cars, whereas in the US and China, people drive on the right-hand side of the road and therefore want left-hand drive cars. Obviously, automobiles have to be customized to accommodate this difference in traditional practice. Third, differences in distribution channels. A firm's marketing strategy may have to be responsive to differences in distribution channels among countries, which may necessitate the delegation of marketing functions to national subsidiaries. For example, in the pharmaceutical industry, the British and Japanese distribution systems are radically different from the US system. British and Japanese doctors will not accept or respond favorably to a US-style high-pressure sales force. Thus, pharmaceutical companies have to adopt different marketing practices in Britain and Japan compared with the US. Fourth, host government demands. Economic and political demands imposed by host country governments may require local responsiveness. For example, pharmaceutical companies are subject to local clinical testing, registration procedures, and pricing restrictions, all of which make it necessary that the manufacturing and marketing of a drug should meet local requirements. Because governments and government agencies control a significant proportion of the healthcare budget in most countries, they are in a powerful position to demand a high level of local responsiveness. More generally, threats of protectionism, economic nationalism, and local content rules dictate that international businesses manufacture locally. Now that we understand these two types of pressures, let us discuss how differences in the strength of those pressures affect a firm's choice of strategy. Firms typically choose among 4 main strategic postures when competing internationally. These can be categorized as a global standardization strategy, a localization strategy, a transnational strategy, and an international strategy. The appropriateness of each strategy varies given the extent of pressures for cost reductions and local responsiveness. The following figure illustrates the conditions under which each of these strategies is most appropriate. As you can see, 2 types of pressures generate 4 types of strategies that internationally operating businesses can pursue. First, global standardization strategy. This strategy makes the most sense when there are strong pressures for cost reductions and demands for local responsiveness are minimal. Increasingly, these conditions prevail in many industrial goods industries whose products often serve universal needs. In the semiconductor industry, for example, global standards have emerged, creating enormous demands for standardized global products. Accordingly, companies such as Intel, Texas Instruments, and Pfizer all pursue a global standardization strategy. However, these conditions are not yet found in many consumer goods markets, where demands for local responsiveness remain high. Firms that pursue a global standardization strategy focus on increasing profitability and profit growth by reaping the cost reductions that come from economies of scale, learning effects, and location economies. That is, their strategic goal is to pursue a low-cost strategy on a global scale. The production, marketing, and R&D activities of firms pursuing a global standardization strategy are concentrated in a few favorable locations. Second, localization strategy. This strategy is most appropriate when there are substantial differences across nations with regard to consumer tastes and preferences, and where cost pressures are not too intense. By customizing the product offering to local demands, the firm increases the value of that product in the local market. In other words, a localization strategy focuses on increasing profitability by customizing the firm's goods or services so that they provide a good match to tastes and preferences in different national markets. A great example of localization strategy is Nestle. Nestle uses a unique marketing and sales approach for each of its markets in which it operates. Furthermore, it adapts its products to local tastes by offering different products in different markets. On the downside, because it involves some duplication of functions and smaller production runs, customization limits the ability of the firm to capture the cost reductions associated with mass-producing a standardized product for global consumption. Therefore, the localization strategy may make sense only if the added value associated with local customization supports higher pricing, which enables the firm to recoup its higher costs, or if it leads to substantially greater local demand, enabling the firm to reduce costs through the attainment of some scale economies in the local market.
The future of human longevity starts here. Introducing the HumeBand 2.0.
Third, transnational strategy. We've argued that a global standardization strategy makes most sense when cost pressures are intense and demands for local responsiveness limited. Conversely, a localization strategy makes most sense when demands for local responsiveness are high, but cost pressures are moderate or low. What about when the firm simultaneously faces both strong cost pressures and strong pressures for local responsiveness? How can managers balance the competing and inconsistent demands such divergent pressures place on the firm? According to some researchers, the answer is to pursue what has been called a transnational strategy. In essence, firms that pursue a transnational strategy are trying to simultaneously achieve low costs through location economies, economies of scale, and learning effects, differentiate their product offering across geographic markets to account for local differences, and foster a multi-directional flow of skills between different subsidiaries in the firm's global network of operations. As attractive as this may sound in theory, the strategy is not an easy one to pursue since it places conflicting demands on the company. Few, if any, enterprises have perfected this strategic posture, but some clues as to the right approach can be derived from a number of companies. For example, consider the case of Caterpillar. The need to compete with low-cost competitors such as Komatsu of Japan forced Caterpillar to look for greater cost economies. However, variations in construction practices and government regulations across countries means that Caterpillar also has to be responsive to local demands. Therefore, Caterpillar confronted significant pressures for cost reductions and for local responsiveness. To deal with cost pressures, Caterpillar redesigned its products to use many identical components and invested in a few large-scale component manufacturing facilities sited at favorable locations to fill global demand and realize scale economies. At the same time, the company augments the centralized manufacturing of components with assembly plants in each of its major global markets. At these plants, Caterpillar adds local product features, tailoring the finished product to local needs. Thus, Caterpillar is able to realize many of the benefits of global manufacturing while reacting to pressures for local responsiveness by differentiating its product among national markets. Fourth, international strategy. Sometimes it is possible to identify multinational firms that find themselves in the fortunate position of being confronted with low-cost pressures and low pressures for local responsiveness. Many of these enterprises have pursued an international strategy, taking products first produced for the domestic market and selling them internationally with only minimal local customization. The distinguishing feature of many such firms is that they are selling a product that serves universal needs, but they do not face significant competitors, and thus, unlike firms pursuing a global standardization strategy, they are not confronted with pressures to reduce their cost structure. Firms that have pursued the international strategy include Procter & Gamble and Microsoft. Historically, Procter & Gamble developed innovative new products in Cincinnati and then transferred them wholesale to local markets. Similarly, the bulk of Microsoft's product development work occurs in Redmond, Washington, where the company is headquartered. Although some localization work is undertaken elsewhere, this is limited to producing foreign language versions of popular Microsoft programs. Please keep in mind that the Achilles heel of the international strategy is that over time, competitors inevitably emerge, and if managers do not take proactive steps
Right, that is the 4 types of strategies. These are the 4 types of strategies. These are the 4 types of strategies. The global standardizations, transnational, international, and the multi-domestic strategies. National strategies, multi-domestic strategies, the global strategies, and the transnational strategies. Then other one, when we are doing the international business activities, we have to concern about the environmental trends. Now here one of the concept is that the liability of foreigners. Now what are the liability of the companies as it being a foreign? Legitimate concern about the relative attractiveness of global strategies. Global strategies is not as prevalent as one thought, and difficulty in implementing in global strategies for the companies when are doing the internationally, there is a kind of concern. And when the trend is that the regionalization, focusing on particular region rather than the global market. Now they are concerned with the region, and again the better understand the culture, legal and social norms, then it is easy for them to do the business, the sort of the regional wise, and that is one of the trend, the regional. Then enter into the international business. These are the different business strategies, the 4 strategies, and whatever the strategies, the company need to select a way to enter into the market. The market entry modes. There are different market entry modes: exporting, licensing, the strategic alliances, acquisitions, and the FDI, that is the fully owned subsidiary. Exporting means sending the product to the different countries across the borders. Now this is the characteristics: high cost and the low control. High cost is that is because of the company has to pay the tariff, the duties when they are entering into the market, high duties, high tariff. And then the other one is the licensing. The method is the licensing, get the license to enter into the market, and it is low cost. For the company, they are not only the license is given, and the lower risk is lower. then little control and low return anyway. Another one is strategic alliances. They can form the alliances, the share the resources and resources cost and the shared risk, and the like joint ventures and all are strategic alliances. Then acquisition, in entering the international market, they can acquire the companies of other countries and enter into the market by acquisitions, quick access to new market, high cost, the complex negotiation and problem merging and the domestic operation. Then another one is the foreign direct investment. They can start the business overseas market by investing. Then this is the which entry mode is better, which one is the best solution. If the firm has no foreign manufacturing expertise and require investment only, the export is the better strategy. And say, if the firm need to facilitate product improvement necessary to enter in the foreign markets, the licensing is the best or the optimal solutions. And say, firm need to connect with an experienced partner already in the target market, then a strategic alliance can be formed. And the firm facing uncertain situations such as the emerging, the economy in the target market, the strategic alliance is also better. A firm intellectual property right as an emerging economy not well protected, then the foreign direct investment or subsidiary is better. And these are the type of the FDI, foreign direct market seeking. Sometimes we go for the foreign direct, the FDI, in order to seek the market. That is the motive with the market seeking. Then efficient seeking, business invest in reduce cost, in a labor cost and all are cheaper, then they can invest it. That is the intention is to efficiency. And resource seeking, sometimes they are going and invest in the foreign market. That is because of the resources are available. Now, so a foreign company investing in Sri Lanka tea or gem industry. A strategic asset seeking, now investing in the company in some country, the strategically, then they can get some advantage. That is the company acquiring Sri Lankan tech startup. Then these are the public-private partnership model, PPT, built, operate and transfer, that is for the BOT. The foreign company built, operate, and after a certain period, transfer the product to the country. Then built, own and operates. The company built and they own the business and operate it in another private party model. And built, lease and transfer. Foreign company built the projects and leases to the government for a fixed period of time. And built, design, build, finance and operate. The foreign company design, build, finance and operate projects. And concession model, the foreign company get long-term contract to operate service infrastructure. And then management contracts, foreign company manage existing public service or infrastructure for the fixed periods. This is how the foreign market entry, the controls, contract based, the export is control is investment and control is less, and the subsidiary, that is more. This is the strategic alliances, exports, the long-term investment, equality, joint ventures, and the subsidiaries. The international diversification, if you go for the international market, diversification will be by diversification, the company may increase return and by diversifying their business to international markets and achieve economic scales, locational advantage, market size, as well as the country established returns. Then again, by going, then they can get the return for the larger markets, can generate additional resources and provide exposure to new markets and generate knowledge leading to innovations. Then complexity of managing international firms make implementing internationally increase in complex because multiple people, multiple laws, multiple regulations, and can produce greater uncertainty, and the risk may result in firm become unmanageable and may cause cost of managing the firm exceed the benefit of the export, new firm possibility established in some regional governments. Then again, when we are doing these are the sort of the risk associated with the international environment, commercial risk, the currency risk, cultural risk, and the currency risk. Countries. Now, commercial risk weak part in the operational problem, timing, complexity, poor the executions, and the currency risk, the currency exposure, asset revaluation, foreign taxations, inflationary, and the culture, different cultures, negotiation, decision making, ethical cultures, and the country risk, political and the legislation, something like. Then when we are doing the cultural risk, we can have the ethnocentric orientations, using own culture and judging the others. And polycentric orientation, we can different mindset for the different countries, and we have the global mindset, which is called the geocentric orientations. And the cross-culture, the management seek to understand how national cultures affect different practices, identify similarities are different across countries in doing the business, increase effectiveness of the global management. And these are the metaphors of organizations in doing the businesses. And the topical metaphors, historical, geographical, normative, functional, that is metaphors are there. Then there are different ways they are interpreting. And the concept of culture, that is right or wrong, and different from the different countries, and that the code of attitudes, the norms, values are different from different countries. That also need to be considered in doing the international business activities. Then this culture can be captured using tangible aspects like food, dress, music, dance, architecture, and other forms, and intangible aspects, beliefs, attitudes, role definition, norms, values, and also culture is the one not coming from business. Now, these are the different layers of the culture that also important in doing the business internationally: artifacts and attitudes, norms, value, and the basic assumptions. This is, we can see the deep culture, and we can see the surface culture. And deep culture also need to be understand in doing the businesses. This is a culture. We can observe something. Something is very the kind of their assumption all are invisible, but this is important in doing the businesses internationally. And again, ethnocentric, the self-reliant culture, when we are doing the business, we have to have the global mindset, not the local mindsets. This is how the culture in the different countries, physical culture, clothing, tools, decorative, body adjustment homes, abstract culture, religions, perceptions, and the attitudes, beliefs, values, those are the cultural things. And decorative cultures, then homes in different cultures, then the management approach by cultural diversity, because of central and the decentralization decision making, safety versus risk, individual versus group work, short-term orientation and long-term orientation, stability innovations, cooperation was competition, high context and the low context, formal processes, all those are part of the things. And these are the country maps in the law 2025, and that also needed in doing the business, see the sort of risk of the different countries. And this is the limits of the international expansion, cost of coordination across countries are different, institutional and cultural barriers, understanding strategic and overall complexity. Right. This is the basic understanding of the international business when we are doing. And any questions? Any clarifications?
Sir,
Yes.
so if you could share the link which you chose previously, it will be much appreciated.
Right. Okay. That the videos, no?
Yeah, sir.
Okay.
If you could,
Okay.
yeah, that's okay.
Right. Okay. If no any issues, then we will stop for the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sir.
Well, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.